Welcome to the Digitally Dreaming of the Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Asif Ali. I'm joined today by Cincinnati Bengals legend and current head coach of Mount Rainier High School, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tremain Mack. Tremain, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
100%, man. So yeah, congrats on your season. I know you guys finished 6-4, so hey, congrats.
Yeah, it was a tough year, but we figured it out and ended up making it to the playoffs and did pretty well. I was proud of the kids.
The reason why, and I appreciate you bringing up the tough fact, because so the previous season with COVID hit striking, right? You guys were 0-4
right
in the shortened season. And so to come back and go and win 6 games and still be able to make the playoffs is remarkable, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was one of the things that was striking to me too. We didn't have a great year. It was a shortened season. We had, a lot of tough roads and tough bumps and a lot of kids out. And then we came back the next year and COVID and amongst other things out of our control limited our numbers that we had on the field. But in the long run, the kids showed up. The kids that was there showed up and they worked hard. And despite playing over 100 plays a game, some of them, they did a great job and came through for us.
100%. No, you definitely, great job. Credit to the kids, credit to the coaching staff, and kudos. So now obviously we'll start off with the kind of with you and kind of the top of this interview. Obviously, from your early life, and we'll progress through. So pretty much, we'll start off with your early life. Kind of talk to me. Was football your first love, or kind of how did you get into football?
I think football probably was my first love. Football, baseball kind of happened at the same time. I went through. I remember. My mom told me when I was 3 years old, I could name all the teams in the NFL. I can't do that now. so I was really invested in the game. And, I grew up poor for the most part, and we struggled to get by sometimes. But Mom taught us the values of hard work and respect for your elders and just that whole thing and having something about yourself that means something. And I remember I couldn't afford any footballs growing up. So, it was I think it was Castro oil cans. That was my football. And I used to kick it between a tree that was almost like a goalpost at the house. And all our neighbors, we all used to play football in the yard. We called the killed man with the ball. And we just grew up playing football and enjoying life. And although, I wasn't, well off or anything like that growing up, it was hard to tell sometimes because we were so invested in just working hard and giving everything we got. And Mom gave her last for me to be able to play sports. And it was a really good thing for me that turned out to be something special in my life.
100%. Obviously, when you kind of have that kind of initial, kind of connection with the game, you can kind of see, maybe it kind of lays a foundation, and obviously, like you said, through your early years, it kind of helped lay that foundation for you. So obviously, with that, when did you start actually playing? When you started playing organized, like were you playing in, would you say middle school, high school? Kind of when did you start playing organized football?
I think I was about 6 years old when I started playing, and when I started playing, it was, it was because of everybody who, kind of gave me the opportunity. Like I said, we didn't always have the finances and everything, but, I had a family that, had a son that was on the team we played for, Clarkston Oilers. And, their family helped me get to practice. I stayed with them after school. There was a newscaster in town that was part of the team too. That was, one of the coaches who we all pitched in. They all pitched in to help me be a part. And, it was really a special environment for me and made me understand how important football can be to your life and how it could bring, people together of different races, different cultures. And it was really important. And I think I was around 6 years old. And I remember when I got my first jersey, I was number 88. And they put on my jersey T-Mack on the back, and it just stuck. You can call me that since. But that was kind of when I first started, and it was with that team, and I was 3 or 4 years with that team, and I always played up a level. So the kids were always older than me when I played. Even in the neighborhood, a lot of the kids were older than me. And so I learned to match them. I was going to have to come with it. And so when I started playing with kids my own age, it was easy, because I'd already been playing with kids who were, at least a year or two older than me most of the time. So that was when I started, and I've been doing it ever since. It's been a blessing in my life. I tell my kids all the time now that football has taught me more than any other sport or any other thing in life that I've been involved with. And sports in general, the other sports I've played have also played a role in that, with going through adversity, with going through hard times, ups and downs of it, learning how to work with a team. It's important. And I think that's been kind of special for me, and it's what's brought me through kind of the life and understanding life as it relates to, the real world and how football relates to that. It's been really good for me.
100%. No, I do think that there's a lot of parallels in life that we can take from football. Obviously, having a team, the common objective, even for me, throughout my career playing in like lower arena leagues and JUCO, playing, and being part of a team transfers my corporate life now to where I have to lead teams and be like a leader of teams. You're basically coaching. You're basically, you're basically driving. You're trying to push the ball down the field. You're basically doing things that will reach that objective. So I totally agree with you how many parallels there are with football in real life. So it's really good to see that it had that impact out on you, which resonated with me too.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. It's always been something that I've shared with the kids and had them understand that if you can work your way through playing sports and football in particular for me in high school, the way it teaches you to be accountable, to be on time, to time manage. Everything is going to teach you when you go to college or when you go in life, you're going to have practiced that already. And so it's going to be a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. And when I coached one season of varsity before COVID hit back in 2019. And so obviously, like, even then, the same lessons that we preached, me, myself, and our coaching staff, to our kids that, hey, right, basically, if you're able to understand kind of these principles when you go to college, and even if you stop playing, right, even if you stop at this point, these lessons will help you become more effective, as the real world hits you. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I think it's definitely critical. Sure.
Definitely. I certainly agree.
So I totally agree. Now let's talk about your high school career. You segue into it. All right. So you were 88. You were 88 in your youth league, right? So were you a receiver starting off, or kind of what was your position?
I played a little bit of everywhere, and I was always getting the ball for some reason, and I was running around, and I wasn't going to let anybody catch me because at that point I was smaller than everybody else, so I can't let them hit me. so that's how I started off. But transitioned into like 8th grade when I started playing for the school. Started out I was playing running back. I played linebacker, and that's where the two places I started. Then going into freshman year, and I stayed at running back. I played a little linebacker. I kicked, I snapped. I was on all the special teams. And then my sophomore year, I was still playing a little linebacker, still playing a little running back. And there was a game or a practice in particular. I tell my kids this all the time. You never know who's watching. You never know when your opportunity is. You got to be prepared for it. And our center, which was my next door neighbor, and this was back in I don't even want to say the year, I'm so old now. I believe it was about 1990, but I was a sophomore, and I was playing scout team linebacker, middle linebacker, and they were running a play, and he was tasked with blocking me, and each time he blocked me, or he tried to block me, I was making the tackle. And the coach, Coach Barry Anderson, we called him BA, and great coach, very instrumental in my life. And I'll probably say more about him through this. But, he got onto the kid and he was yelling at him. He said, he was, all kinds of words, I can't repeat here. But
he was
saying those.
If you really can.
My kids would get mad at me because I tell them not to talk like that.
Go ahead.
But, and so several times it happened. We ran to play 3 or 4 times, and I kept making the play. And the coach got so mad at him, he turned to me and he said, if you make the next tackle or on this next play, if you make the tackle again, you're going to be on varsity. Well, that was the last time I played JV football. I made the tackle and he moved me up to the varsity football. It was the fourth game of the season as a sophomore. And at that point, you know, I was playing a little tight end as well. So I moved up and I played mostly tight end that year. And it was an experience that, you know, when you have an opportunity and that opportunity presents itself to tackle it and make the best of it. And that was the last time I played, you know, JV football. And I was, it was really blessing to me because I spent that year with some older kids and it's kind of the same environment. I was always playing with the older kids and taught me a lot. And being from Texas, you know, back then you didn't really play varsity football as a youngster, you know, especially as a freshman, and barely as a sophomore did you see that. And so it was good for me and I grew a lot. And then the next year, you know, I ended up playing a little bit of receiver, a little bit of running back, a little bit of tight end. I played linebacker as well, and I played safety. And I snapped and I kicked as well, punted. But it made me a well-rounded athlete and learning a lot of different positions. And now, you know, I tell the kids I've played every position except for guard and tackle on the field. So it makes me understand a little more about the game and understand it from the perspective of being in that position and growing and learning as an individual athlete as it relates to football. So it was great. And in the high school experience, it was really good for me. And we went, you know, we won state in '89. I was a freshman. I was on the team, but didn't play. I was in the program, but I wasn't on the varsity team. But I went to all the games because I was in the band. You know, so we went to all the games. We traveled and got to play in the state championship in the Houston Astrodome. And it was, ironically, it was 1989, which was the same year, I believe, that, what is it? The Friday Night Lights movie chronicles that year. Because Dallas Carter and who was it?
Permian,
Odessa Permian, they played for the championship that year, the same year we did. Yep. And so it was a great experience. And then, like I said, my sophomore year, I said a little bit about that. My junior year, we made it back. We won state that year, my freshman year, and we played Texas A&M Consolidated. And we played them and beat them 14-0 that year. And then we turned around again my junior year, and we made it to the playoffs and ended up matching up against them again. And I still haven't watched that film. We were a better team, I believed. They ran a few trick plays on us. We made a few mistakes. And, you know, I give them credit. They won the game that year. And it was the hardest thing because I still can't watch that game. still tough to watch it because, you know, you could have done better. Yeah. You know, then fast track to my senior. And I got to play against like McCowan brothers and those guys. But my senior year, we went 5-5. Really a down year, but I tell my kids all the time, we lost every game by less than 6 points that year. And so it easily could have been a 10-0 year, but it was a year where we didn't even make it to the playoffs because of how tough the competition was. But it was a great experience, my high school career. And I got to, you know, fortunately play, you know, play football, I played basketball, you know, I played baseball and I ran track in the same season. So we were allowed to play 4 sports then. So it was a great experience and got a well-rounded experience and got the opportunity after that to actually be drafted. So that was in baseball. So it was great too. It was a good experience for me.
Which team drafted you in baseball?
Kansas City Royals.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
It was, I was telling, you know, when I tell the kids to you never know who's watching. I told a kid this story the other day. We were playing against a team named Corsicana, and they had a kid on their team who was really good. And his dad played in the major leagues at the time. And we traveled there, and I was in the batting cage, and I was hitting, and then warming up, and I turned around and I hit. You know, I'm a righty, and I turned around and I was hitting lefty in the cage. I noticed this guy watching me, and I didn't know who he was, but I was just hitting. No big deal. We just do it all the time. And when I stepped out of the cage, the gentleman asked me, he told me what he was there for. And he said he was watching another kid. And that's how I knew that they were watching the kid. And he said, and he gave me his card. And he said his name. He said, you know, here's my card. And you know, in the Kansas City Royals, I'm a scout. I'm just watching this kid, you know, and I noticed you in the cage. And he said, we have a tryout coming up soon in Tyler, Texas. And well, of course, that's where I'm from. And I ended up going to that tryout, and you know, I went to a Braves tryout as well later on. But ironically enough, that day was, you know, the day that you know, I was doing the right thing at the right time. Had a decent game that day, and that team ended up drafting me. So it was pretty special. So I tell the kids, you never know who's watching you. Always give full effort and be the best you can be at all times.
100%. So now, obviously, with that, you know, let's talk about your college recruiting experience, right? Because now, I mean, you're at a position where you got drafted, but then you have D1 schools, you know, kind of, you know, knocking on the door. So talk to me about kind of what was going through your mind and kind of who the selection process. Talk about the entire process.
I always try not to get emotional here. I always avoid that topic for, you know, at that time when I was getting ready to graduate, you know, I didn't know what school I was going to go to, you know, several schools, and had the opportunity to go. My mom wanted to stay close to home. And that was TCU. My cousin went to TCU, Philip Epps, played there, played for the Green Bay Packers. And so she wanted me to be close to home, but she also gave me that freedom to do what I wanted to do. And for me, I grew up with, you know, seeing Miami on TV all the time, and I just loved the way they played and loved the excitement around football, and was able to kind of see something about them. And I just wanted to know what that was. And I found out when I went there, and I found out on the visit, it was family. That's what I found out. I didn't know. I knew it was something I wanted to be interested in, but found out it was family. But at that point in time, I didn't know where I was going. And I found out I got drafted. And then shortly after that, I found out my cousin got killed. And it was supposedly by her boyfriend at the time. She got stabbed a numerous amount of times and was murdered. And that was one of the toughest moments for me. She was my closest cousin at the time. She was the oldest, and she always was that one that, you know, when my other cousin was, her brother was ragging on me and making me tough, she was, you know, making me understand why he was making me tough. And so it was tough for me. And honestly, I never really made a choice. I just let the choice happen. I let the day pass. And because I wasn't ready to decide and I hadn't focused on that, I was still mourning and trying to get through that. And so once the decision date had passed, you know, it was kind of, well, I'm going to college. And so I left it at that. And I was able to experience being a part of the baseball team at Miami, also being a part of the track team at Miami, you know, and that was a good experience, getting to know those people. You know, I didn't get to play, you know, all the games and everything. You know, I was a little homesick at the time, so I went home instead in my beginning years, and I regret that. But I was a part of the team, and it was special to get to know all those guys, Danny Graves and all those guys that I got to know were pretty special guys, and it was interesting. And but that's how kind of I decided to go ahead and go to Miami. And on signing date, it came down to, I think it was TCU, Miami, Texas, UCLA, Georgia, and those were some places I visited. I also unofficial visit Texas A&M. I was more of a Texas fan then, so it was hard. Texas A&M was going to be a hard sell. But going back to the family that really helped me out, the after-school practices and all that, when I first started playing football, they were A&M fans. And I remember them driving me down to A&M on an unofficial visit to see the university. So it was great. And I had to experience that, to honor what they had given to me. They gave me the opportunity to be a football player, along with several other people too, but I had to see that through. But on that day, you know, I really didn't know I was going, but it came down between TCU and Miami, and something just was right about Miami for me, and I just chose Miami. And I saw my mom's face, and I felt like she knew before I knew, and she wasn't going to let herself be sad that I was going far away from home. So all she said was, it's your decision, boy. And she left it at that. But it was great. It was a great experience. And, I learned a lot throughout that experience, which helps me. The recruiting experience is a lot different these days, but it helps me with my kids, help them understand the process and what they should be looking for and going through, and making sure that they're thinking about the important things that come along with that, instead of making decisions based upon things that aren't concrete.
Right, exactly. And I think I was going to actually bring up you brought for me, because it's perfect. But now you're coaching, right? You're able to kind of take the lessons that you learn as a player, going through the recruiting process and kind of dealing with recruiters, dealing with campus visits, and kind of learning and knowing how to navigate, between kind of what school to choose, kind of what's a good fit, and kind of, you said, like, what just feels right. Sometimes it's just an intrinsic feeling,
right.
And you can't really explain it, So it's good to kind of,
Yeah, it was, and like I said, I remember, date my age now, but ESPN, wasn't always on the air, so it was just starting. And I remember the cable box that you push the buttons on top.
Yeah.
And so I was always on ESPN. Anytime Miami was on, I was glued to the TV. And I just loved the way they played. And I loved the excitement around it, like I said. And then, I remember going down and visiting Miami, and it was December 18th. I'll never forget it. I step off a plane, and it's 80 degrees, cool breeze coming off. I'm like, this is not Christmas time. What's going on here? And I ended up, having one of my hosts was Carl Richardson, who was from Dallas, Texas area, played for the Seahawks for a while. Safety at Miami, did a really good job. And he took me around and visited. And one of the first places I went was a grand experience that I don't think I'll ever, who knows, kids don't get to experience it, but, one of my future teammates, I didn't know at the time I was visiting, Rohan Marley. And so he takes me, and we go to Bob Marley's house. And I'm a high school kid at Bob Marley's house, somebody that's just infamous and just somebody I have great respect for music-wise, and I always listen to music. My mom always listened to music, and now I'm in their house, and the brothers and were all there, and I remember them having a jam session in this modest garage, modest house too. It wasn't extravagant. It was great, but it wasn't just an extravagant house that you would think. And got to play pool in their house, and got to meet mom and her husband, or his wife, and it was a great experience to experience that. And so something you never forget. And the part I think I felt the most about that moment was, okay, that's a great experience with a legend, but the inviting part and the family part, and it made me realize, what I saw kind of in Miami, and now I just needed to see if that was glue within the program as well. And I learned real quick that it was, and it was special. And honestly, the kids that go to school here at Mount Rainier are pretty much in the Miami Hurricane program I grew up in, accountability and things like that, but especially, being there and being a family atmosphere. I mean, you can see in the background here what we have. And, just step aside for you can see that. But
attitude, effort, commitment, family, and trust to all my listeners and viewers on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify.
And the very bottom there is something that started at the University of Miami. Once a Cane, always a Cane.
Yeah.
I just use that motto here. Hopefully they don't mind me using that.
Absolutely.
Once a Ram, always a Ram. And they adopt that atmosphere here, the kids do, and they always come back. Like when I was at Miami, Jim Kelly, Brennan Kosar, Michael Irvin, all those guys always came back. And we got to practice with those guys in the spring. These kids our kids come back, and they get to talk to the other kids about their experiences, their ups, their downs, the things they should do, shouldn't do. Hey, listen to coach, he's right. When you get out in the real world, all these things. So it's a program like that. It's what I experienced at Miami. And it was pretty special to me. And if I had it to do all over again, I would do the same thing. it was a great experience for me.
What you just said about the NFL players being connected back to the campus and kind of the alumni, that connection.
Yeah.
When I walked in at JUCO at San Jose City College back in spring '08, basically my college coach Keith Williams is now the offensive passing game coordinator on the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
He was a previous coach at San Jose State. So James Jones of the Packers came to our spring ball my first day on campus, and I had not played high school, mind you. So I'm a 17-year-old kid. My first time trying to learn how to play the receiver position. James Jones is doing the ladder. I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Like, is this a standard? Do I have to be like, is this how good I have to be? Because I don't know if I can ever be this good. But like you said, it's so cool because, like, as a kid, being able to interact with him, being able to get, advice, lean on him,
Exactly.
It helps.
And I had an experience, and I'm sure he may not remember this, but experience with Michael Irvin. It all came back in the summer, and we 7-on-7 and route running 1-on-1s and things like that. And you're always curious, my goal, I wanted to be an NFL. I wanted to make it in the NFL, but I wasn't always sure that I had that in me. And so I just asked him one day, hey, we were in 1-on-1s, and after the day, I was like, well, that's one of my goals. What do you think? What do I need to do? And what he said to me really solidified my thoughts about my chances. He said, well, the way you covered me today and the way you were aggressive and physical like that, there's some guys in the NFL that haven't done that to me and haven't worked with me like that and have been that, that difficult to go against. And so it was good to hear that, because hearing that made me realize, hey, I might have an opportunity. This might be real one day. Here's an all-pro receiver telling me I did okay against him. And that was special to me, and I'll never forget that. It was important, and that was something that made me say, you know what, you can do this. You might have a chance one day.
100%. No, it's really great that you share that story, because I do think a lot of kids out there who may be listening to this, prospects, student athletes, whatever, that you are your own biggest barrier, your own biggest obstacle, to reaching that thing, reaching to the next level, that pinnacle. Yeah. I mean, I think that, and I think that's a great story. And I'm pretty sure James Jones doesn't remember me either. But I mean, he would always tell me, I'm like, James, you think I can go to arena? You think I could do anything like outside of this? I've never been. He's like, look in the mirror and remember, that's going to be your number one obstacle. He's like, I grew up homeless. I had opportunity. I basically defied all the statistics and made it to where no one could believe it. And he ended up winning Super Bowl 2 years later. Right. So, I mean, I think, that's pretty much the takeaway.
Yeah. One of my things is, I had great coaches in high school. One of them just passed away this last year. But, great coaches that did great things and went on to be college coaches and athletic directors of schools and cared about us as individuals, cared about us more than what we did on the field. I was watching, they did a 30-minute kind of news station deal when we won state in '89, and the coach said something. One of my kids was watching. He said something about, what he does it for. And I asked the kid after I heard that, I said, remind you anything? He said, yeah, you, coach. And so that stuff was ingrained in me. And I was very fortunate, from high school, even to college, I had coaches that really, really cared like that. And one of those coaches that really meant a whole lot to me in that regard, outside of my high school coaches, was Chuck Pagano. He was one of those coaches that, he said it like it was. He would joke around with you. But when it was serious, you knew when it was serious and when it was time to go. But he's also one of those coaches that whatever you needed, he'd be there for you. Whatever time of day or night. I got to meet his family. I knew his kids, and it was great. And then, I was here in Seattle, and when he was with Baltimore, they played up here, and I was trying to, contemplate whether I was going to go down there and watch the game. It was a preseason game, and went in the locker room, in the tunnel there when they came out of the locker room, and got a chance to talk to him and Ray Lewis and caught up a little bit. But he said something to me that I'll never forget. And I couldn't believe he said it because of all the people that he's coached. He said, you're one of the greatest athletes I've ever coached. And I thought to myself, you must be talking about somebody else. You've coached many athletes that I feel like that are way greater than I was. But that compliment coming from a coach that I've respected so much, that I emulate, and that I teach my kids like he taught me. I coach my kids like he taught me, and it was special. And I thought that, you know, that's something that really resonated with me, that'll stick with me for a lifetime, that the coach that I hold in such high honor would say something like that about me. And so it was awesome.
Definitely awesome. And Chuck Pagano's an inspiration to so many people out there, so it definitely holds weight.
He definitely is.
Definitely does. So now let's talk about your college career. All right. Now you walk onto Miami campus freshman season.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your entire college career from start to finish, and what was some of your favorite moments, you know, throughout your run.
I remember walking on campus. I had an injury from high school that my senior year that I had to clean up. So I had a scope when I first got there, knee injury. Got it scoped. It's a quick deal. And, you know, coming in, I remember, you know, going in and we had our orientation and everything. And we're having the orientation this summer, and it's, you know, us on campus, and we're orientation, going to practice afterwards, and getting kind of acclimated to the environment and learning everything. And I quickly learned that I was going to get some weight put on me. We had the training table, we called it then. A little different now. I think I don't know if they've changed the rules, but I know during the time I was in college, right at the tail end, they changed it where all students have to have access to that. But when I first got there, it was just a training table for the athletes. And I mean, it was everything on there. And cheesecake was one of the things that I indulged in. And I came in 185 pounds, I believe. And 2 weeks later, I was 200 pounds. And that was the first experience of like, okay, we're going to put in hard work. We're going to work, and they're going to keep you, one, fed, but two, hold you accountable for the things you need to do to be a successful athlete, especially in the classroom and things like that, where, you know, it was tough adjusting to trying to be a college athlete and student when coming from a small town in Texas and things like that. So there was a lot of help provided, and it was a great experience. And my freshman year, I remember, I tell the kids, and I have all these experiences, and I'm usually bringing up something about my mom, or either it's something about my experiences in college. And, you know, I had an experience, and the kids don't like to be on scout team, don't like to do, I mean, my first year in Miami, when you went into school then, it was not like it is now. You weren't going to play as a freshman. It was rare. We had 2 guys play as a freshman, and that was mainly because they had one of them, Ray Lewis, and then another one, Jamie German, which that was a position of need. And Ray Lewis was second or third string linebacker, and we were short at that position too. But also he was a good player that ended up starting after our linebacker Robert Bass got hurt. But those are only 2 that really played for us in freshman year. Everybody else was scout team. So scout team was another team in itself that was going to push the starters and everybody else to be the best they can be. And I remember on scout team, when I first got any sort of respect, we were doing, you know, we have that goal line period. That's let's go. It's the goal line period. And I was, you know, I played linebacker in high school. So I was, you know, on scout team that day, kind of in there as an extra linebacker. And Donnell Bennett, me and him met at the goal line. And I hit him pretty good, and he got up and he said, "Hey, you know, something to this effect, you know, great hit, youngster." And that was a senior or a junior about to be a senior that is telling me, "Hey, I did a good job." So that was, I'll never forget that. It was like that push to say, okay, now, kind of like the Michael Irvin thing. Now you can do this college thing. You know, you just showed a senior or a junior at the time that you could do well in this program. And so that was kind of the first year experience for me. And then the next year coming in, you know, playing safety behind some, you know, CJ Richardson, the guy that was my host, and a couple other guys we learned from. And it was great. Earl Little was a year older than me, but we were the 2 safeties that were behind those guys, and had a great relationship with Earl and we worked well together back there. So we ended up playing, you know, safety my junior year. redshirt junior year, sophomore and junior year, and did well back there. But I think the big thing for me was, again, I go back to family and the opportunity that came up and with the experience that made me excel through all that. And one of the things was not letting my team down. And I remember I tell the kids, and this is kind of jumping around a little bit, but I just remember the story. Telling my kids here how important, special teams are and things like that we did there. And Chuck Pagano was my special teams coach. And you never want to let Chuck down. He was a hard worker and you worked hard for him. And I remember I was, it may get loud for a minute here. I got kids coming in. Hopefully you can hear.
Yeah.
But, I had we had a couple returners back and I was on the front line blocking always. And I always look back and it's like, man, those guys are juking around, and not to down them or anything, but I said in a meeting one day, a little too loud, I didn't mean to say it. It came out like, I don't want to do this. I'm blocking my butt off and the juking and with doing that, I believe, I can't sustain my block. And I said it, and coach was like, well, why don't you do it then? And that was kind of the short of the story. And then the next week or so, I ended up being kick returner at Miami the first time. And my philosophy was, hey, run back at them as fast as they're running at me, and my blocks are timed up. They can't get off the block fast enough to tackle me. And so that was my philosophy. And that first year, I ended up, having an opportunity to, I think I had 39.5 average that year. And I tell the kids all the time that it is not about you, though. Anytime I was asked about a kick return, I always said it's my blockers. I can't do anything without them. It is not me. It is my blockers. It's team first. And so that was one of the experiences I had, and that's how I kind of started kick returning. I'd done it in high school a little bit, but that was kind of my first time doing that, and I jumped head first and ended up surviving.
Not sure if you could read that.
Oh yeah, special teams player of the year. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. 2012.
That's awesome. That is important. I tell the kids all the time, if you don't play special teams for me, you must don't want to play for me.
All I ever did was block.
Yeah.
All I ever did.
Yeah.
My coach would always tell me a receiver who can block is more valuable than a receiver who can catch.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Exactly.
My sentiment is exactly. I tell my kids, my motto here at receiver is, you don't block, you don't play. And that's the thing. We had a kid, I think it was back in 2014. I don't think he caught but 2 passes all year long. He got all league. It was for blocking. Blocking. And in 2019 here, in my opinion, I think we had the best group of blocking receivers in the league. And then last season, due to kind of the talent we had and the people we had, and kind of gearing our approach towards the kids we had each year, our receivers didn't get a whole lot of passes thrown to them. They had to learn how to block. And that's important. I think that's important. It's an important part of the game.
It's critical. It's absolutely critical, because sometimes, if you're able to you're not going to always get yours whenever you can. You got to be a decoy and kind of, open up the offense, open up your teammates. So I think I'm glad that you brought that point. I'm glad that, Chuck Pagano was your coach, because now anyone listening to this understands the value of special teams. If you can't get from 2 guys, on this video right now. So
It's important. It changes. It's a phase of the game that can help change the game. And then hidden yardage that you gain or lose in special teams can be the difference between the game.
Absolutely. No, you definitely can be. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about, your draft experience or your pro did you have a pro day and combine, and kind of how was that like for you?
I didn't have a pro day my senior year. I think we did have a pro day, but I don't think I participated in pro day. I participated in my junior year though.
Yeah.
Pro day. And that was, ended up, that experience it's funny because I ran my fastest time and I had a strained hamstring that day, but I was blessed to have run that. Me and Dwayne Starks both ended up running 4.28 that day. And that was the fastest I'd run. And he was the other fastest guy on the team, which kind of brings me to another story. We played Baltimore, and we were playing up there, and we were losing. And first kickoff the second half, I catch it, and I return it all the way. Well, of course, when I break, who do I see? Dwayne Starks. And I was like, I know how fast he is. And he is the last person I better let catch me. And so I was just running as fast as I could run. And he didn't end up catching me. I scored on that one. And so, but yeah, that was my experience with Pro Day there at Miami. I did it then. And I ended up not doing a Pro Day there. And then I went to the Combine. Didn't run as fast as the Combine. Didn't do as well. I don't think, I feel like I could have been in better shape, and I felt like I could have run a little faster, but I didn't have a good day that day. But I did okay. I mean, it wasn't the worst day, but it's just what I wanted to run at. It wasn't what I ran, and so. But I think the experience for me was one of going back to that day and deciding to come out early. I came out as a junior. Ended up having, was fortunate enough, we played Virginia in my last game, and I ended up having, it was an odd game because I ended up getting player of the game, but I didn't have a whole lot of action in that game. Most of the game, it felt like they ran away from me, so I had like 3 tackles, I think, but ended up getting a fumble recovery for a touchdown, an interception for a touchdown, a block kick, and I can't remember what else, but ended up doing well. And that was my last game at Miami that kind of catapulted me into deciding, okay, go ahead and go into the draft. It was more of a family financial situation. I wanted to help my mom out. I needed to help my mom out. And if I had to do all over again, I would do the same to help my mom. But if it wasn't concerning that, maybe I would have stayed another year. I would have liked to spend another year at Miami, play baseball, run track again, do all those things that I went home in the summers when I was homesick that I couldn't do. I wish I would have had another year to do those. But yeah, that was my kind of that draft experience for me. And, I didn't go as high as I wanted to. And at the time, initially, agents at the time told me, I was one of the top safeties in the draft. And I kind of tumbled down a little bit, but I think I teach the kids now with all my experiences that every, I don't know who coined this. I can't remember. I think it was Les Brown, I believe, but every setback is an opportunity for a comeback. Yeah. And I also talk about, tell my kids I've never lost a day in my life. Never lost. Because any opportunity, and I say opportunity purposely, because any opportunity that I've had to overcome something, I try to tackle it with a positive mindset so something positive can come from it. And if you do so, that experience and what you learn in that process will always be valuable to you. So you never lose. You never lose. And so I feel like I've never lost games. I've never lost opportunities. I've never lost anything because I learned from them. I grew from them, and I evolved as a human being. So I don't feel like I've ever lost.
100%. I love that. I love that philosophy. I love that quote, because I feel the same way. Every day is a learning experience. And that's why I take it the same way, because, you can look at it as setbacks or anything like that. Yeah. But if you take that experience, whether it's negative or positive, and you use it to either learn from it or not repeat it or maybe build from it, how could you have lost, right?
Exactly.
You never lost.
Exactly. And then throughout, my lifetime ups and downs, the experiences I've had, it's kind of led me to another Les Brown quote. I believe it's provide more work than you get paid for. So provide more than you get paid for. And I'm sure I'm not quoting that correctly, but it's something to that effect. And that's what I pride myself on. I mean, I'm, they kind of, I'm here all the time. It's a running joke. I'm here at the school all the time. Yeah. Sometimes 14, 16 hours a day. Yeah. But just putting in work and doing things, I was listening to, who was it? I'll think of it in a minute. But, Eric, motivational speaker, Eric.
Oh, yeah, Eric. Oh, yeah. Oh, Eric Thomas.
Eric Thomas, yeah. I was listening to him. And he spoke about, how bad do you want it? That one. I love that one because he says stuff in there that relates directly to things I've been through, how I've been, and then how I am now. And he said, the way you know you're successful is when they don't have to pay you for what you do. And when you go to work and it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
And I'm at a place like that in my life right now where I tell them, I don't have to get paid for what I do. I'm doing a job now where I'm an interventionist, and I help re-engage the students back once they get in trouble and things like that, in school suspensions and things like that, and just mentor. But I've been doing that since I got here at this school, and now they're just paying me for it now. But you don't have to pay me. I do this because, when my mom's dying bed, I told her two things. She was getting ready to pass away. And I told her, I hugged her and told her this. It's gonna be hard for me to say. I told her that I would always take care of her girls, my two little sisters, and that I would always give back what was given to me, because I feel very fortunate to have, two, at the age of 12, two dads, stepdad and biological, both kind of walk out of my life. And I had my coaches, high school coaches, Chuck Pagano, that took that place and showed me how to be a man and showed me how to develop, showed me how to grow as a person. And for me not to share that with these kids would be irresponsible. And so for me, that's why I do it. It's bigger. I tell the kids all the time, it's bigger than you, and you have to have something you're doing it for. You can't be out here doing it for the money. You can't be out here trying to get your college education because you want to make a lot of money. It has to be for something more than that, to ground you so that you don't give up when times get rough, so that you do this no matter how many hours you spend here, you do it because you made that promise to your mom that you're going to make sure your sisters were taken care of, and you're going to make sure these kids had somebody to look up to, and that they were going to have somebody that supported them the way you were supported when you didn't have a father figure around. So that's why I do it.
That's so amazing. That's so amazing, so inspirational. Appreciate you sharing that too. I mean, I really think that's, when you have your purpose and you found it, and like you said, you can do it for free, and you can just really, see the impact you have in others, then, that's kind of, because I was on a podcast being interviewed about my playing career, and they basically asked me the question, are you living your purpose, right? And I basically said, of course, because having this platform and having, these shared experiences, and also, like you said, being able to give back more than you get paid for, it's just, that's it. That's all it is, and
I certainly agree. And that's kind of what my foundation's built on. And I just want to help out and give all I can to the people around me, and anything I can do to help. I'm that person. Whatever you need, and that's me. Whatever you need, I'll try to do it and make it happen for you. And in the process, if I can, these kids can teach them a thing or two that's going to help them in their lives and add another tool to their tool belt of life, then I'm all for it.
100%. Now we got to get into the NFL career. Your rookie year at Cincinnati was Boomer Esiason's last season as quarterback. You, as a rookie, talk to me about that. Not to mention Eric Bieniemy, current offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk about your rookie year. Talk about it.
I had so for me, it was a surreal experience to actually get to play with Boomer. Great guy that came back to play for us, and it was great to learn from him and see how professional he was and how he approached the game and how he worked with the coaches. And I believe Kenny Anderson was the quarterback's coach at the time. But how he worked with the coaches and just was a great experience. And I was telling one of my kids just recently here about Eric Bieniemy. When I kick return, he was the other returner. And I said to I learned so much from him. You know, he wasn't the loud guy, but he was outspoken. When he said something, you listened. He did it by example first, and he held you together. I said he was the glue that held me together back there. I mean, I returned the kicks, but he was the orchestrator. And at one time, you know, Coach Al Roberts, which I'm fortunate enough to be in the same city with him now. He's coaching at O'Day High School. He's helping out over there. But, you know, he was our special teams coach. And we had 2 returners back at first. And then when Al learned that I could, you know, baseball player and as an outfielder, I could cover the whole ground, you know, he moved Eric up to the short returner, and I was a deep returner. But for me, Eric was the orchestrator. Like, he did everything back there. Hey, let me know when to bring it out, when not. That's what you do, right? That's what you're supposed to do. But he did it at a greater clip than anybody else. He held the whole group together. He had those guys blocking for me like it was no other, and he had me running for them like I was going to die. I mean, it was my last time to run. And that's how we became, you know, a good group for 2 years back there that I believe ended up, somebody had to tell me this, but setting the record back there. I don't know if it's been broken or not, but some records back there in returning for Cincinnati that was special. And I see why he's doing what he's doing now, because that's what he did when he played, you know, that's what he did. And he was a great mentor. I don't know if he knows this, but I looked up to him, and he's a great mentor for me when he was there at Cincinnati, and he was great. I mean, he was special.
It's kind of a crime that he hasn't been considered for any head coaching positions, head coaching gigs, don't you think?
Yeah, it bothers me. I every time I hear it, I turn the channel because it makes me so mad. Because if anybody that I feel deserves it, with his humility, with the pride that he has with what he does, and how he approaches the game, and how much work and hard work he puts into it, and just from seeing it from afar now, and the experiences I know I had with him, there's no way he's not ready. He was always prepared. And that helped me immensely. So I hope he gets that opportunity, and I'm pulling for him. And when he gets it, you know, I'm going to make sure that, you know, I have a day for Eric, because I think that he deserves it. And I'm hoping to be able to reach out to him and tell him congrats on that day.
100%. Now let's talk about your breakout season in 1997 to 97 to 99. That's when you started. You broke the scene. Your other teammate Corey Dillon, right? He also, you know, and you ended up becoming a Pro Bowl selection. Talking about what that felt like, you know, from your sophomore season onwards.
You know, I never really thought about anything that had to do with the Pro Bowl. It was kind of I remember the day they told me. You know, was walked in the locker room. That's when we were at the old facility when it smelled like milk over there. It was pretty nice. It was next to the milk factory over there, one of the factories. I can't remember which one, but it was pretty stinking over there. But, you know, I'm there and they tell us, and I'm in the locker room, and I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't expect this. And then all I could think about that day was, you know, you'd think about you and how great you did. All I could think about was how fortunate I was to be in that situation and have the guys around me that helped me get there. And that was my thought. And because I know the year that I had was fortunate. It was fortunate that I had those guys that stood up for me, that blocked the way they blocked for me, blocked their butts off and worked hard for me, and to have Eric back there with me. I was fortunate. So I think the experience for me throughout the year was just working as hard as I can for the group that's blocking for me, and that group working as hard as they can to block for me, and they knew what they were going to get in return for their blocks. And building that trust between the two groups, myself and the guys blocking for me, and having Eric, like I said, be the orchestrator of the whole deal. And I think that was important. So I feel like it was a group effort for sure. And I could not have done anything I did without them. And so I was very fortunate and felt, you know, I think at the time, gifted enough to have the opportunity. It was a great gift to have those guys around me and the teammates that I did. And it was, really looking back, it was unfortunate that we didn't, put it together and win more than we did, because out of all the groups I've played around, that group had more talent on that team than any I've ever been around. Of course, you say, oh, it's a professional team. Well, yeah, it is, but the talent in the different groups and everything, we just didn't pull it together somehow. But it was great experience, and the year leading up to it, was a kind of a little bit of the segue into that second year that helped me propel myself to the Pro Bowl. And I think the experience after that was, I tell my kids this sometimes, it's kind of an awakening. And I'll never forget the announcement that they made when they announced all the people at the Pro Bowl, and they lined them up and they said, these are 80 of the greatest players in the world. I was like, wait a minute. It's kind of like the Chuck Pagano experience. Like, you're talking about me? I don't know about that, but then I look around and Peyton Manning's there, Warren Sapp's there, all these great players are there, and so it was a grounding, Tony Gonzalez. It was a grounding situation that made me realize, I'm glad that I had the opportunity. I'm very fortunate that I was blessed with the athletic ability to be able to compete with the best in the world.
Was that your favorite moment of your NFL career, or was there another moment that you put up above that?
I think that was the favorite memory of something being said. My favorite moment was at the same time, but that was when I was able to take my mom and her twin sister to the Pro Bowl, and they got to meet Emmitt Smith, take pictures of Emmitt Smith and Peyton Manning, and thank God for Emmitt and Peyton for taking those pictures. Michael Irvin took one with him as well. I thank God for that opportunity for them to go together as twin sisters, identical, and have that experience in Hawaii when they had really never experienced that before and been that far. My mom was probably her first time actually flying like that, and now it's a long flight over the seas just to get somewhere on an island that they'd never been to, and having them experience that, and the smile on their face and the pictures and the memories I have of that was probably my greatest memory.
And it basically shows, like you said, your will, your dedication, and your purpose, your foundation. You had a goal set the moment you stepped on campus to Miami to get to the NFL. And, you like you said, with Michael Irvin, now here you are with those greats that you grew up and, idolizing, watching on TV, and your mom and her sister, your aunt, basically are there to, share that experience with you, which like you said, is probably the pinnacle, of that.
That was definitely the pinnacle, and the opportunity that it provided for me just being in the NFL and able to, purchase my mom a home that I was able to gift her on Christmas. And the lady that was working with me was able to, bow it up for me, have a big bow on the house when we got there. That was, also one of the greatest experiences for me that provided. But just in NFL alone, that seeing their faces was great, for me.
So that's awesome. Yeah. Obviously, the next season was your final season in Cincinnati. And then basically you went on a hiatus, but then 5 years later, I think the bug started scratching to come get back in it.
Yeah. And originally, I take some time, and then I started working out again, and then went to Louisville Fire for a short period of time. And it was supposed to be a kind of a get in shape deal to get ready for the next opportunity. And then the next opportunity came with the San Jose SaberCats, which you know a lot about.
Right here. Yes, sir.
With Mr. Fry and those guys. But
let me show you. I have my jersey.
Yeah.
2010. Before they realigned, I was on the training camp roster and they cut me. But I still got my 81.
Yeah.
Right there.
Awesome.
Still got it.
Yeah. But I spent some time there, and it was it was an experience and back then our rosters, I won't say much more than this, but our rosters were maybe bigger than they were supposed to be. So I was a part of the roster, and getting myself prepared, getting in shape and working out and everything. And I ended up going there and ended up, I remember got a couple rookies of the weeks and some things like that, and ended up pulling my hamstring on an interception. And that injury set me back that season. And then I ended up having another knee injury where I had to go and have a microfracture surgery, which, ended up actually leading me to Seattle, which is where I'm at now. But yeah, that was an experience. It was good. And I got to meet, a lot of great people and learn a game that is much different from from the NFL game. And in the arena ball, but it was exciting playing there and being a part of that because their program was really aligned with how professional programs were run, how the top-notch programs were run. They were doing a lot. They had their own, from having their own jet to having their own, it was a lot aligned like that in a league that wasn't always the most financially strong. That did a great job of helping with the people around the league and everything that they did for the league, which I appreciated, and the people that I met there, and so I ended up was there in the city about 4 years, and still had a claim with my knee there, so I was back and forth. See Dr. Ting over there. I don't know if you know Dr. Ting, but he was a team doctor at the time. It was a great experience that was great enough that I enjoyed enough that I never tried out again for a team. I was happy where I was. And then when I came here, with my knee injury, I ended up spending 3 years here dealing with a claim in my knees. And then after that, I just decided to hang it up because it was like, I started working in the community here, and that goes back to what I was saying about being fulfilled and doing what I want to do and helping out and giving back. And so I've been here. I was supposed to be here 3 months or so, and it's been 14 years, going on 14 years in June.
Now we can talk about what you're doing now. The poster behind you, because you started over 10 years ago with the Mount Rainier High School Rams program. Yeah. Talk me about how it was like. How did you get into Mount Rainier? Talk me about that. The start thing. Yeah, sorry.
So like I said, I was here, rehabbing my knees. I was at one of the UW facilities, training there and going to rehab there. And I knew some people in the area, so I thought this would be a better place to be as far as, because I had to fly every couple of weeks back down to see Dr. Ting. So I didn't want to go to Texas and have to make that long flight. So I thought, okay, great place to be. I like the city. And then, I couldn't work during the claim. So I was just sitting around. I got tired of sitting around. So I started doing, work in the community. And then when I completed the claim, I started doing work for this place called the Log Cabin. It's a community center and in White Center, Washington. And started doing work for them. And I started applying for just coaching jobs in the area. And it was more, I didn't know if I wanted them so much than to just give myself something to do all the time. I wanted to go apply. And the Highline School District and specifically a gentleman named Scott Like, who was at Tyee High School, hired me as the baseball coach over there in 2010. And I coached over there through 2010 and didn't leave. Well, I'm, of course, still in the Highline School District with Mount Rainier, but I was coaching over there. And after that, started coaching basketball over there because when I was in Cincinnati, a friend of mine who I'd met over there who, small world, but one of my friends who played at Miami basketball was playing for Athletes in Action in Cincinnati. I knew him. I was hanging out with him, going to church on Sundays and hanging out. And then there's a guy that was there, Josh Hall, who played on that team. And Josh Hall ended up playing a little bit. He was with the Trailblazers for a while in camp, and then went overseas and played basketball overseas. But he was playing with them, He didn't have a car there at the time. He was driving the van. So I just had 2 cars. I let him have mine. He was driving there. So it created a friendship that lasted all these years. We're still friends to this day. And he knew the guy that was coaching basketball at Tyee. And he said, oh, you're coaching at Tyee. Is at the same school. We found out the same school. He said, you should go ask him if he needs help basketball. So I asked him, and then I started coaching basketball at Tyee. And then I started coaching football at Tyee, helping out there. And mind you, this is all in the same district as Mount Rainier. And then in 2016, 2011, that coach that hired me, the athletic director, transferred over to Mount Rainier High School, and he was a counselor here. And he coached for 1 year here, and he decided to step down. He wanted to coach his son, who was coaching or playing at a different school. And so I applied for the job, and they ended up giving it to me, and I've been here since 2011. At coaching in 2012 as the head coach, and in the district total since 2010. And in 2016 is when I fully moved everything over to Mount Rainier. So I'm coaching football, baseball, and basketball here. I was at the time the district athletic director wanted me to be on campus over here doing football and building the program here. So she didn't want me to coach basketball or baseball anymore. But I found that there was a couple of openings over here, and I said, well, I know you want me to be on campus here. Is it, okay if I coach these sports? And well, she's going to give me a couple of years to see if I can do it. And the new athletic director that came in, he had a couple of questions for me and said, hey, I'm not asking you this to doubt if you can do it or not, but how is your time and how do you feel like you're going to be able to get all of those things done? And I just simply said to him that I think it would be more difficult if I didn't have those things, because I've been playing football, baseball, basketball, and running track every year since high school, pretty much. I did it in college. I did it in high school. It'd be odd if I wasn't doing it. So I think I'm going to be fine. And so I've been doing those ever since here, and it's been great. The people I've met here, the community that surrounds me, and I've developed a relationship with the mayor in the community, which is the newly elected mayor. He was the deputy mayor when I first met him. So it's been awesome just creating that community atmosphere and getting our boys out in the community, doing community work. And we want our boys to be great members of society and be great men and women in their communities. So I think that, for me, that the whole experience leading up to, me not even thinking I would be here more than 3 months, to find that this is the place God had for me to be, because there were so many people that I've affected here that, the best thing, I was sending one of my good friends a message the other day from a kid that's graduated and some things that he said, because the payment, I always said, you don't have to pay me, because payment enough for me as a kid coming and telling me, hey, thank you for the advice you gave me. It's really helping me in my life. I appreciate it. And it's pretty special to me that you're there for me like that, coach. And it reminds me of the coaches that were there for them. And it lets me know that I'm doing the right thing.
100%. No, I do think you're right. Because, if you're able to impact one kid, that tells you, you've done your job.
Exactly. That's awesome. For sure.
You mentioned kind of lots of stories you've given your kids. You mentioned Coach Pagano, some of your high school coaches. I forgot to ask you about Coach LeBeau, who was your defensive coordinator on Cincinnati. Is there talk to me about your relationship with him, or your experience playing for him, and kind of how have you implemented his practices in your current student defense?
I talk about Coach LeBeau all the time. When our kids claim they know it all, and I'm like, well, if you won't listen to me, I don't know who you're going to listen to, because I learned from one of the greatest that did it. And if you won't listen to anything that I'm telling you, or maybe even some of the ways I'm getting on you, because he got on me, then I'm not sure who you're going to listen to, because this guy created some of the stuff that's in football in this day and age. And for him, he was a no-nonsense guy that also had his moments where you knew, hey, this guy is a real gentleman, And the best thing out of all the football thing, because there was great things with football, but one of the things I look forward to the most is every year, the night before Christmas, he would recite it every year to us, and it was amazing. He's the greatest at it, and I think that he is a special coach. That the knowledge that he has.
Your video froze. You there?
It finds I'm here.
Okay, good.
Is it back? Okay, yeah,
yeah.
Connection had a problem.
Yeah.
But I said one of the things that he is that even if you don't inquire the information or you're not actively seeking it, it seeps into you. He has a way of presenting it to you in such a confident manner, in such a foundation way that it helps you evolve as a person. And when I first got here and first started coaching, I was like, well, what am I going to do with the kids? What do I want to do? And I started going back into everything we did at Cincinnati, thinking these things were very foundational. And if I just create the shell to build upon with the group that I have, I'm going to be fine. And so I created that shell, from scratch to have a foundation. And I think I learned a lot of that from him, because when he teaches and when he's learning, it starts from here and then it builds on. It's kind of like, no other way to put it. It's like math with him. You got to have this to learn that. And you got to know this to have that. And you need to know this for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that comes. And if you know all those things collectively and you have the foundation, we can do anything. And that's what I learned from him. And I don't know if he I've never told him any of that, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, but if he hears this, that he was a special coach that taught me a lot of things. I appreciate the moments he was honest and real with me.
100%. No, I do think when a coach is being rough on you it's for the right reasons,
Mm-hmm.
And I think, there was some controversy with Trent Dilfer, if you remember, back in August, right?
Yeah.
And what's your take on that? Let me ask you, because you're obviously what do you think? What's your take? So
as far as I'm not too much into I don't read a lot of articles, everything, so I didn't hear everything about Trent. I heard a little bit. But
did you see the video or no?
I didn't see the video, but I knew he had said some things that
So he literally was grabbing a kid and by shoulder pads, and he was yelling, and he was pushing the kid back, and he told the kid to sit down, and so that was pretty much it. So.
Yeah, I think my take on that is this day and age, you have to take the correct approach.
Right.
And my thing is the biggest way to do that is learn the kids. I learn my kids. I tell the kids all the time, I'm not going to ever treat you guys the same.
Right.
I have the same expectation of all of you, but I'm going to treat you according to how you respond to things. And I'm going to learn who you are, learn how you respond to things. Some kids I can yell at and they get better. I can get on to pretty hard and it motivates them. Other kids, I know the point where I need to back off, or I need to say, pull them over aside from everybody else and say, hey, look, this is what I need you to do. I know the difference. And I think with his situation, Trent's, I think, I don't want to speculate, but I think if maybe he understands that more, then he takes the right approach with that kid. Because some kids you can yell at, you can get on to, you can kind of get in the face a little bit. I don't recommend putting your hands on them, but you can get in the face a little bit, and it's a motivational tool for them.
Right.
But I make sure for myself that I understand the kids' needs, the kids' wants and desires, and how they respond to things, and also make sure the kids understand the things that they don't know about themselves, so they can be a better self. And so I think with me, that's kind of my take on it is just kind of learn your kids, know your kids, and understand what they respond to. Because sometimes if you understand that, it never gets to that. They have such a respect for you that it never gets to a point like that where you have to go there, or you're doing something like that could get yourself in a situation.
What you just said is so critical, because I remember when I was coaching, at Whitney, like I said, before the pandemic hit, we were 0-10 the previous year. Mm-hmm. Next year, we were able to go 6-6 because we couldn't, our head coach, and we were relying on the staff. We can't just yell at these guys and say, okay, yeah, get off, get your, but because you have to, like I said, every kid is different. You have to tailor your approach for mm-hmm. each individual psyche to help hone and kind of foster and nurture that kid's, ability to reach that potential, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do think that's critical. Yeah. So
I definitely agree, and it is, and you see it every day. Once, and then also making sure a kid understands that, you know, your ear is always open, your office door is always open. They can come to you with anything, and develop that trust within them, because when you develop the trust, it makes it easier to communicate. It makes it easier for them to come to you and talk to you about things that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have come and talked to you about, that allows you to see how they operate and how they respond.
100%. Yeah. Always having an open door policy, having that trust, you know, that's critical. Yeah. Actually, so now let's talk about your team, the Bengals, right? They made a Super Bowl run this year. They fell short. Yeah. What do you think about the game, and what are you expecting for them moving forward?
Yeah, it was a great game. And I think that they, you know, I hope that no one in that organization or around the team thinks that not winning the game is a failure, because it was great. And to overcome everything that they overcame, especially two games that were identical versus the Chiefs, that either one of them, they could have lost, maybe should have lost if, you know, the Chiefs had played that way the whole game. But of course, they made adjustments. They came out and they stepped up. And I think that it was, for me, it was great to see them there, and great to see the things that I've always seen that city and the team could be if a positive approach was always taken. And I think they're doing that. And it's great to see that the owner is getting behind the coach with offering him an extension and things like that. And it's great to come, you know, for years to come. And Joe Burrow taking ownership and that program the way he's done, and taking it by the horns and just being a leader. It's great to see, and I'm so proud of them. I'm happy to see it, and it makes me excited about what's to come for them. And you know, it makes me honored to have been a part of that organization, and really. It's a special thing to see. And, you know, for me, I'm always rooting for people that I know, people I grew up with, and things like that. So it's hard when they're going against, you know, Mahomes, because he was from White House, Texas, and that's 15 minutes away from my house. And his dad was my high school coach, was also his dad's high school coach. When I got to meet his dad when he was a pitcher with the Mets, I believe it's Mets, he came and did a little pitching exposition for us when I was in high school. So I have that connection. So I'm kind of rooting for Mahomes to do well, but not to do too well that he wins, you know, so it's tough. But it was great to see that they came in and they did that well. And honestly, you know, game could have went either way.
It really could have, you know. I do think one or two plays, you know, and one or two calls either way, you know. So I do think it was a great season.
Yeah.
And it's funny, another guest I had on, Marcus Ogden, he's a Ravens fan. That's where my college coach coaches, you know, Baltimore, right? He basically said that, you know, I mean, he's scared because now Cincinnati is positioning themselves to be the powerhouse of the AFC North.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With the way, you know.
Exactly. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And they got some, you know, some teams there that have some years of some developing to do, some comeback to do with Baltimore and those other teams. I mean, you don't know what it's going to be a tough division, you know, and it's always been, but it's going to be, you know, now it may be, you know, changing of the reins a little bit, you know.
It definitely could be, you know, because you got Joe Burr.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess now kind of, you know, and what are your resolutions, your New Year resolutions for this year? Obviously with Mount Rainier, with Mount Rainier's programs, and obviously, you know, kind of what are your goals, you know, for the programs, and anything else you want to close out with?
I think my goal, and it's been every year, but each year I try to make it a little bit stronger, is to come back and be better than I was the year before, and learn from the things that I experienced the year before, so that, you know, either I don't make the same mistake or I improve on the things that I did well, and carry that message to the people that I'm around, and being positive in every facet of my life, so that I can exude positiveness to everyone else around me. And if I can do that, then the resolution is there every year. It's done. Because I know if I do that, good things are going to come. And I talked about foundation earlier when I was talking about Coach LeBeau, is that, you know, if I can create that positive foundation, I'll get something good out of my life, especially if our kids are successful. And that's for me what I come in with, and making sure, living that quote, doing more work than I'm getting paid for, and making sure I'm helping our kids become positive members in the community. And I think that's my goal each and every year, and to try to expand and improve on the program, and let my kids know, and all the people in the building too, that, I'm here for them, and I'm willing to do anything it takes to make sure that I can help them and aid with them being successful, because that alone is success for me.
100%. No, I do think that, with what you're able to give back and what you're able to kind of, provide other kids and anyone around you, if you're able to elevate them, right, then you've also succeeded.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, this has been great. Anything else, any final thoughts, anything you want to close out with?
I think for me is, I think we have a complex, I think, as people with holding grudges and having problems with people and things of that nature, whether it be, with what we feel like's right as opposed to what somebody else does, and a lot of the racial injustice and things like that are going on right now. But I think just if we all understand that life is too short to hold on to things like that, and that you're here today and you could be gone tomorrow, and what would you feel if you said something to someone today that maybe you didn't really mean, but you were mad, and you couldn't make up for that the next day because they were gone or you were gone. And I think just taking that approach where life is too short to have problems with people. And I'm one of those people that if someone has a problem with me, I feel like it must be them, because I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure we don't have problems. I don't like that. I like having good relationships with people. I like doing good things, and I like being positive and in spite of negative situations, and trying to make sure, I've been through enough and gone through enough in my life, and I've had, a lot of money. I've had no money, everywhere in between. And so you can't get me in a situation where you're going to hurt me more than life is that I've been hurting my life already. So I'm okay with being okay. And I'm okay with, hey, maybe I'm the problem. If that's what it is, I'm willing to say that to make sure we don't have a problem, because I feel like life's too short to have problems with people. So I'm always willing to go the extra mile to make sure that us as people have an opportunity to be better people and work in an environment or live in an environment that's safe for people. Or it's hard for me to see, people on the street without giving them something or wanting to help them with something. That's a tough one for me. So instead of maybe giving them money, I go buy them food. Or that person that's having trouble with her bags coming out of the grocery store, let me go help her with those bags. I'll get mine later. That's just me. I'm that way. And I've always been, and it comes from, my mom, and she's always taught me to be respectful to people, and always be a giver. She gave of herself for me. There was nights where I didn't see her eat, and I never knew that. Never knew what it was about until I got older and realized she wasn't eating because she was making sure we did. And so for me, it's important to take that to every facet of my life and spread that to people, because maybe just with one person at a time, I can help the world be a better place. And so that's kind of what I wanted to end with.
Incredible way to close out. I do think, just want to add just one more thing, my personal experience, which resonates with what you just said. I remember when I was playing arena, even though I had a great enough career, right? Playing, I only got paid $80 a game. And I make much more now in my IT consulting career than I do ever as a player. But to your point, having no money and having a lot of money, You have to stay grounded. You have to understand that, like you said, grudges and everything, the hatred that you hold on will always, it's never worth it,
Yeah.
because you're only bringing yourself down.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Exactly. And it's a great message, and I believe in it. And I just, my approach is just being better than I was the day before, and working hard to be the best I can be all the time, and making sure I share that with other people and help them be the best they can be too.
100%. Coach Mack, great career as a player. Congratulations on the season. Congratulations on your tenure and your continued success. Wish you much more success in coming seasons, right? This year to come. Hope to have you on again soon. I'm so glad we were able to connect today. And
sure, me too. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem.